with you too. Um, Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. So, mm, Anne Marie, this is your first Love Fest and you're loving it. Oh, yeah. So, Anne Marie, okay, so here's the thing about October Love Fest, guys. Um, it's going to go on for a month. You have to check the schedule, which is posted in the 7 Day Miracle Challenge Facebook group. I think it's pinned up there. So, look for the Oktoberfest schedule calendar, and then you can see who's coming on, which days, and what topics they're talking about. And you could just party down. Okay, so because guess what? There's a lot of madness going on the planet right now. So we really all have to be committed to creating a different kind of news, and really supporting each other. Okay, supporting each other through whatever challenges that you're having. I just got off the phone with a really old friend of mine who her name is Jennifer Gold, and she was in a Showtime show actually called Polyamory, Married and Dating. I don't know if you have, it's all like Showtime. Anyways, she was, we were supposed to do a podcast this morning about polyamory for my Golden Vine podcast. And she called me and she said she was too devastated to do it today because she has to let go of her Pilates studio, because of COVID and her rent, and she can no longer afford it. And it was like the best Pilates studio in San Diego. Okay, it's like a really, really, really big, good studio. And so, understanding, we're all going through something, aren't we? Cheryl's holding steady. So that's why it's important to, I guess, be authentic with ourselves. We don't have to keep it all together. So I was really grateful that she shared her real reason why she couldn't talk. She's just really, sad. Um, Lisa, yeah, I'm glad we're doing it too. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, and let me just check to see if there's anybody else waiting in the waiting room here. Today's a pretty juicy topic. I have not talked about this publicly before. It's actually something that really just came in earlier this morning that I was trying to, what's the word? Trying to kind of do my best with this one. I even had to make notes, and I might be reading from some of the notes that I took when I was chatting with Spirit. Let's see here. And it's all about sovereignty, so your sovereign mind, and just making sure that you're, doing your best to stay sovereign. How many of you actually know what sovereignty means? Let me know. Do you guys know what it means? You don't have to define it. I'm going to define it for you. But that word gets floated around a lot, and I feel like I know what it means. So, but I always, sometimes I do, like, I look up definitions of sovereignty. And um, and so here's the definition of sovereignty. So the topic of today is how to move from a enslaved mind to a sovereign mind. And okay, enslaved mind to a sovereign mind. But I realize, like, that word sovereign, a lot of people might not know fully what it means, and we have an international community. So I'm going to go ahead and define it for you. A simple way to say it is having supreme authority, supreme independent power. Hold on, let me move my microphone over here in case it's working. Supreme and independent power or authority, usually in government, as possessed or claimed by a state or community. It's a rightful status or independence. So it's complete independence. Usually it's related to government. But in this case, we're bringing it through to really check in with your mind. There's been a lot of cult talk for me. It's been coming around me. I don't know if you guys are watching The Vow on, what is it? Is it HBO? But The Vow is about this like really charismatic, super smart leader who entrapped essentially a lot of really smart people. And it's a really fascinating journey so far through their mindset and as they began liberating themselves from this cult. And someone made in the show, a man made a brilliant, one of the ex cult followers made a brilliant statement, which is no one joins a cult. They're joining a good thing. They believe they're joining a good thing. And that really hit home for me in so many different ways, especially when we're seeing so much polarity going on. And, I'm also interviewing for my podcast really soon someone who belonged to the John of God experience down in Brazil. If you've never heard of him, he's a really famous psychic surgeon that recently, over the last 2 years, they found out he was, such a cliche, sexually abusing women there. Even though he's a masterful healer, he's doing that. And that's essentially what also they found with The Vow, with the leader of The Vow. Masterful, masterful people, extremely charismatic, that entrance and enchant the minds of healthy, well people. And it's not their fault. It's not the people's fault who join it. I've had to use this because I've been doing a lot of inquiry and a lot of research with the big surgeons of conspiracy theory and in particular QAnon adherents, really challenging myself to really more deeply understand the psychology behind that, and the history behind many of these conspiracy theories. And this is no hate towards people who are Q followers or adherents, but I am not a believer and I do not support that movement because I've done a lot of my own research deeper into history. And I'm not going to talk about that here, but more than likely I'll talk about it more on my podcast. So what happens when people join something they perceive as good, that's saving the world, that's beautiful, that's of God, that's divine, is that this cult mentality happens, and then before you know it, you have this really amazing, charismatic movement. And what's interesting about Q is that the leader is quote unquote anonymous, although many people feel that they know who it is. But it's the attractiveness, the magnetism in these movements that create something. Now I'm going to take it a step further, and I want to bring it into the politics. Hi Rita, good to see you. I want to bring it into politics a little bit, okay? I don't want to get into politics, but I want to bring in the lens of a sovereign mind versus an enslaved mind and what the difference is. Because again, many of us do not know when we are plugging in to something that is destructive, because it's always like, it's always, lights and oh, this is exciting, and oh, I believe in this, and some of us really crave that cult feeling, like I finally belong to something. Okay. So, with the issue of sovereignty, what I just described was being the authority of your own freaking mind and not getting too entrenched with the magnetism and the polarity that we are being pulled into currently. Now, this doesn't mean you have to lose your politics, right? I have my own personal politics. But the difference is that I'm not on a campaign to dehumanize the other side. And you may have seen a lot of dehumanizing propaganda against Democrats or against Republicans. And if you catch yourself believing that Democrats are evil or that Republicans are evil, then you can most assuredly know that you have drinking that Kool-Aid and you've played someone else's fucking game. So, where are you on that spectrum? I can be fully engaged in my personal politics and also deeply love my family members that don't agree with me, even if I feel like they're on a destructive course. Okay? And it takes practice. So I'm going to look at my notes here. Okay, so I want to talk about the slave mind specifically. The slave mind is when your mental and emotional energy get consumed like fuel by others in an unnourishing way. So it could be by friends, by family members, by advertisers, by the media, by politicians. So here's a fundamental problem that I have with Q adherents is that they believe they're becoming sovereign by completely opposing mainstream media. However, they become fully entrenched in the counter narrative. And so, guess what's just as toxic as one? It's the counter narrative. So, you unattach your tentacles to this thing over here, and then reattach it to some other really toxic thing. And it's really somewhere in between where the truth lies. So again, it is not their fault. Okay, if we are not sovereign, we can get stuck into anyone else's webs, and we can do this on the micro scale. If you have ever been in a toxic romantic relationship with a narcissist, which I know there's so many empaths here. So many empaths, okay? So a narcissist in the beginning is like, oh, you're so beautiful. They say all the right things. I love you. And what they're doing is they're entrancing you. They're magnetizing you into their fold. And once they have you, it's really challenging to get out because they mind fuck you into believing that their well-being is your job, right? Your kindness, your service is, it's your job or else whatever. There's a lot to narcissism. But the whole narcissistic archetype is really popping up because some of our leadership, I won't mention any names, is the classic textbook case of what a malignant narcissist would look like. And that is not opinion. Okay, that is from my clinical perspective and many other psychotherapists' perspective. Okay, doesn't mean bad people necessarily, bad person. It just means their features are powerful and strong. Okay, so when a narcissist entrances you, I'm no longer talking about the leader. I'm talking about a romantic partner so that you understand it on a micro scale. They mesmerize you, they hypnotize you, and they entrance you into believing that's love. But really what that is someone using you like fuel, like a fossil fuel, tapping your resources until you're empty and until you're full of self-loathing and hatred that you will do anything to be loved again. And so that moment where that abuser gives you that ounce of love, that crumb of love, it keeps you going, it keeps you fulfilled, okay? So that crumb of love is very much like in QAnon, there's something called Q drops. The anonymous leader drops something in. It's like this rush of love, this rush of knowing and wisdom, right? And it's the same for just in general narcissism or cult leaders. It's the same feeling that people get. Oh my gosh, he looked at me. He called me. I mean, I must be something, and it just starts this toxic cycle. So I want to talk to you about this thing that happens when you start becoming the other and start perceiving the other as evil and wrong and understanding what game we are playing and whose game we're playing. First, I want to talk about they've done studies about the differences between Democrats and Republicans. And you might think that they're from totally different planets, which they are, but it's not a bad thing. So I got to look up my notes because I want to get this 100% right here for you. I was watching a TED Talk. You should watch it. It's probably like 10 minutes. And it's a TED Talk by Dana Gull Young. I think it's DANNAGL Young. And it talks a lot. It's only 10 minutes. It's a great listen. But it's a fundamentally, as we can already tell, our brains are wired differently, okay? Between liberals and conservatives. It doesn't even have to be Republicans or Democrats. That's a U.S. centric thing, but you know, in every politics, there's opposing sides, and you can probably fill in the blanks in your country who's who. So they looked at the brains and the capacities and did research on people who lean left and people who lean right. And guess what? What they didn't find was that any of them were intrinsically evil. Okay, but here's what they did find. On the right, if you are conservative leaning, an extreme conservative leaning person, really prioritizes order and predictability. Okay, they tend to focus on, you know, law and order and predictability. Okay, the other side often focuses towards openness and experimentation. Okay, so this whole melting pot in the United States that we're in, and the immigration situation that's horrific, on what's being done at the borders currently. This is just a clash of these different brains. You know, your brain has two different sides, and in the middle there's the corpus callosum that separates the brain. Some of us are more lean towards one side of the brain, and other of us lead towards the other side of the brain. So what seems like an incredible impossibility to ever get along, that's the game that we're in. We are in a chess game with a chessboard, and we are the pawns, and we are told by the kings to fight against each other, okay? And the kings to me are politicians, not the fucking secret cabal of cannibals eating children, okay? That's a QAnon reference if you didn't know that. But it's the politicians, right? And we all know politicians, or we know that some politicians are corrupt, but not all of them, okay? Not all of them. So we're in this game that is designed to like make us turn against each other. And to view our differences as somehow evil or wrong, right? Because the left believe that the right doesn't have compassion for others. And then the right believes that the left is just going to, you know, raise taxes and control them and things like that, okay? And there's a whole long list on both sides. But when I feel into this one, I was so grateful to hear this information because I lived in a household that represented this polarity. Not politically, but my dad was law and order. Okay, he's military, retired, big rank, then went in to become a correctional officer in prison. So you can tell which side he was on, right? He's super law, order, structure, safety. That was his value. My mother's very soft, open hearted, loving, accepting of all people, like, to a fucking deficit, right? And he was extreme. They were both extremists. They were both like she was not political, but she was very loving, almost to the point where she didn't have boundaries, right? And he was so strict and stern that he became violent and tyrannical and tried to control everything. So it's less of where the differences are and more about how far on the polarity are you. So Archangel Uriel gave me a really great technique and image for us to really work with to ensure that we're not getting too sucked in to the drama at the extreme left, at the extreme right. Because I'll tell you, the people in the center of both sides have more in common than with the people in the extremes. And I'm very much a centrist, I would say. Centrist in one way, but I love to party, okay? I'm extremely liberal in other ways, okay? But fundamentally, we all just want to love, right? That's the one thing we know. We just want love. We just want love. But in order for some of us to feel love, we need safety, security, law, order, and maybe the other team just needs inclusivity, equality, like things like that are really important to them. Everybody should get taken care of, right? Like that is a beautiful quality. And so is structure and law and order. So how do we rectify these two? So that's where Archangel Uriel comes in. So, but I want you to check in with yourself. Vince, you're waving your flag over there, huh? It's time to regulate business and raise taxes. Oh my gosh, Vince, you're so funny. Just wave it on out. The key here is to love each other despite the differences in our brain, because together we make beautiful things. Like I am the product, not that I'm calling myself beautiful, but I am the product of these two extremes here, right? And so and I'm grateful that I was raised in these extremes because I did have to kind of navigate and transmute these differences to create a balance, to create a bridge within myself to be able to fucking deal with this shit, right? Adrian, I'm glad you're liking it. And I tell you, every time I talk to someone who's voting for the other party, okay? Because I talk to a lot of people, and I have people that are really involved in all kinds of things, different beliefs all over the world, literally. What always comes to me is how much I just love them. And it doesn't matter what their politics are, as long as they're not overt assholes, right? So, because I have boundaries. If you're a dick, you're not in my space. That's it. You're fired. That's it. But if we're reasonable, let's be reasonable together. It doesn't, it's really amazing. Oh, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jen. So how do you liberate yourself is the thing. Liberate yourself from the polarity, from the chaos. Because when you're not super sucked in by the magnetism of these polarities, you can actually hold a center and hold a vision. So this is where the supreme authority comes in. Because as opposed to playing this game over here or playing this game over here fully, you also want to maintain a third entity, which is the center, which is your vision. We're in a drama theater. We are in dramatic political theater right now, and it's a theater. And yes, these things matter. I'm not saying to spiritually bypass and pretend like it doesn't happen and meditate and pray. You best get out there and vote, right? There's some cool shit on the line here. It's big. And also, there's more to the story, which is this is a moment in time, a tiny speck in history, and a tiny speck in your ancestors' history, right? There could be hundreds and years behind you. After you, your what are they called? Antecessors, predecessors, is that antecessors? Future ancestors a word? So this little speck in time is just a speck in time. There's hundreds of years. Well, maybe not too much longer. The planet explodes and we all die off. Okay, but which is a possibility. Whatever. It's important for you to hold the vision. We are in a churning. We are in a deep transformation. Shit gets fucking hard before it gets better, and we unfortunately are right in the middle of some shit. So how do you maintain your sanity? You have to keep your vision. I've talked about this before. Keep your vision of love, and also own the bullshit that you're projecting into the world or onto the other. You have to pull back those projections. If you truly believe other people are like that evil, you need to do some work on yourself. You need to do some shadow work on yourself and really sit and contemplate and research and try to deeply understand. Instead of being hateful, be curious. I am deeply curious about people who have opposing views. I'm deeply curious about QAnon and the people who kind of turn all of a sudden, get spit down that rabbit hole. I'm deeply curious and I'm concerned, you know? So instead of hating, what is your curiosity? Do you really know? I mean, have you really studied the other and the politics or the even the emotional baggage of the other? Did you learn about, like, when you were with that person, did you really try to understand the psychology behind that, and also just understand how futile it is to be in relationship with someone like that? That's what's required. It's not required to appease. It's not even required that you be nice or loving or anything. All that's required right now is just understanding, being curious, and holding your center and vision. I talked to a woman this week who is with a malignant narcissist, and she's trying to break herself out of that particular jail. And she felt so guilty, so guilty. Like it was her responsibility. He was her responsibility. And they broke up a while back. And guess what? He's still living in the house, and she was cooking him dinner. The night before, she cooked him dinner. And I could tell she felt guilty and ashamed about that, But like I said before, it's not her fault. It's not your fault when you get sucked into shit like that. It happens to the best of us, the wisest of us, the smartest of us, the most loving of us, the strongest of us. But what does matter is getting the support and strength that you need to pull yourself out. So that is what we're doing today. If you're caught up in the drama of the theater that is presented to you all over from all sides, I want you to know that there's incredible hope, and that as much as quote unquote liberals and conservatives appear to be different, they are complementary, not opposing. We need each other. We need a soft side, we need a structure. And we need politicians who don't pit us against each other. And that's going to come from us and our vision. It's going to come from our own wisdom to know when we are getting pit against each other. So I would like to promise you that no matter what happens after our election here in the United States, that I will deeply love, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry, deeply love you guys, no matter who you vote for. And that it's only with each other. All of us. It's only all of us, not just one side. It's going to take us all to get us through this. So Spirit is really asking us to come back to balance and to remember who we are. who we are. We came here to love people, not to play these fucking games, these ridiculous games that we're being tossed into by advertising and social media and the big media. Um, and I'm not saying, kumbaya, motherfuckers, or anything like that. I don't believe in utopia just yet. It's shit's gonna get ugly. But I'm committed to loving you, all of you, and 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 doing my best to see past the theater and to, if we're all in this dramatic theater, we're all in the auditorium, I'm keeping my gaze on the doors because there's light right outside and start. But we just have to finish up with this play a little bit and move to the next era, move to the next thing. So I want to teach you. Yes, we need humanity. We need to get back our caring. We need to stop dehumanizing each other. When we start dehumanizing each other, it is an era of pre-fascism. This is also one of my concerns, and it can happen one side or the other. But the more dehumanizing that we do, the closer we are to fascism, and we know what happens. So each of you, no matter what side, no matter where your politics are, you have to pull back your protection. People are humans, they're loving, they're hurting, and they behave badly when they're hurting and afraid. Okay, so when people are afraid and hurting, they do bad things. It doesn't make it okay, but we have to go into deeper inquiry and hold it all. So you guys, I'm seeing you guys light up the boards here. Can you guys commit to loving each other no matter what? I want to see more of you in the chat room commit to loving each other no matter what. Okay, you do not have to agree in order to commit to understanding at least the other. Okay, if you can't quite love, you have to commit to being curious and understanding. And also do your best to not promote hateful propaganda. Please. Okay. So you guys want to do this visualization, do this healing and visualization with Archangel Uriel. He's going to help bring us back into balance. He's going to show you your attachments. And I really want you to feel into where you're attached. What is consuming your energy? What's consuming your life force? I've recently had to pull mostly off of social media, and I really read, the news like only twice a day. I was reading it like 5 times a day because again, I'm super okay. I watch a lot of reality TV, so part of me like loves the chaos, right? Loves that feeling of like, oh yeah, oh shit, oh no. I like the drama. I grew up in a chaotic household, so a part of me, if you guys grew up in chaos, part of you will be drawn to chaos because it's like comforting in a way. It's like, home sweet home. You know what I'm saying? So you know who you are. You know who you are if you're like me. Okay, so you have to, bring it back. So I've recently come back to more to my center. And I'm saying in center, I have deep hope for all of you, for all of us. Um, and there's deep possibility, but it happens at the individual level. Okay, so here we go. It's Archangel Uriel. I want you to read a little, I want to read you a little bit about Archangel Uriel. And Jessica saying something has consumed my life force for the past 3 or 4 months. Legs hurt, no energy, and I mean no energy. This is coming from a girl who has ADHD nonstop. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we're getting plugged in. All right, so you're giving your life force away to something, but we're all fucking tired, the whole pandemic thing. And I mean, it's just, we have to do so much to take care of ourselves. So wherever you're being plugged into, wherever you're being called, that's where a part of your mind is being enslaved, right? Wherever you're feeling magnetized, where it feels kind of yucky and out of balance and you can't seem to stop yourself. It could be an addiction. It could be, something in the political landscape. It could be a person or your work situation where you're really kind of being polarized. So I want you to have a situation in mind that you really need to bring back balance and authority. Like you need to bring your authority back and not get knocked around in the victimization pool. Okay. So first let me read to you just a little bullet, a couple of bullets about the power of Uriel. So Uriel can bring courage um, back to a specific area of your life. Uriel can also help you, check this out, to project love as opposed to fear. I mean, isn't that enough? We need this activation, right? We need this attunement. Um, Archangel Uriel can also help you understand essential knowledge. So remember, I said be curious more than hateful, be trying to understand. Um, and Archangel Uriel can help you weather a storm. So, how helpful is he right about now? And on so many levels, right? We need that to be able to project love as opposed to fear. And that's very much where our resources are getting tapped, right? We're getting pulled into fear. In one way or the other, we're getting pulled into fear. And it doesn't matter like what politics you have. Both sides are propagating some level of fear. So love is a really good antidote for that. So go ahead and like find a quiet space as you can. And Dana's saying, I made a commitment to not unfriend anyone because they disagree with me, but still try to lovingly keep boundaries. Sadly, not all family and friends have felt the same way. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on, a lot of blocking each other. And, I think it's fine. You have to do what it takes to keep your sanity right now because we're all dealing with traumatic complex traumas, meaning what I mean by that is multiple levels of trauma right now, financial trauma, pandemic trauma, political trauma, family trauma. Some people are traumatized by having to be in such close quarters with their spouse all the time. There's many levels of trauma. So I support people. If you need to block, you can block. I do not block people for the most part, but that's just me. But Dana, yeah, do what you can to just keep an open heart. So I love that you're doing that for yourself. Um, okay, so I want you to envision something. I want you to envision a great big tree that stretches from the planet all the way up to source, to the supreme being, whatever that feels like, looks like for you. And somewhere out there, there's the supreme point where all existence began. All existence began. So I want you to witness and experience that tree. And we're going to do an invocation. Creator of all that is, an Archangel Uriel. We ask to help you. We ask for your help to unslave our minds. And you can say at home, unslave my mind. Help free my mind from any polarity that is toxic to me. Help release me from the invisible bonds that keep me attached to any negative theater that is in my highest alignment that I need to let go of. Help me hold a vision of love and a vision of beauty beyond this moment, this tiny moment in history. Please give me the strength to stay in my truth, to stay sovereign, and to act accordingly. Help me stay embodied through this all. Help give me a clear mind. So I want you to see this tree. And I want you to notice that in this tree, there's branches coming out of the left and branches coming out of the right. And I want you to see all of these little uh, lights lighting up on one side of the tree or the other side of the tree. And so what Spirit showed me was that when you're when you look, we can take politics, for example. Democrats live on one side of the tree. Republicans live on the other side of the tree, right? And they're all the way over there. Totally different worlds, and what appears to be no bridge between them. So if you feel yourself living on one side of that tree or the other, Spirit is going to now bring us all back to center. And so I want you to hold your attention and embody the tree trunk of that tree, where you're not erasing the opposites still exist, but you are perfectly in the center where you can experience the opposites, you can investigate, you can be curious, but you do not have to exist imbalanced. So Uriel wants us to remember that we are made of polarities all up and down ourselves. Inside of our hearts, there's polarity. Inside of our brains, there's mind's polarity. Inside, all over our lives, there's polarity. So being center and in balance keeps us from toppling over, from losing our authority, our sovereignty. So when we are in the center, do you see how you are connected to the Supreme Being, direct, straight line, and to the earth itself, which helps strengthen you so that we get strength from above and below us. So instead of living in the left house or the right, the house is on the left or the house is on the right, we live in the supreme house of the divine being that includes all opposites. It's not running away from the opposites. It's actually entrenching yourself smack in the center of the opposites. So I want you to imagine your own spinal column now is lining up with that center. And we're going to ask Archangel Uriel to really help unlock our mind, any prison feeling that we have. And we're going to ask for a refresh. Archangel Uriel wants to refresh you, refresh your mind, refresh your thoughts. And actually, he's now calling it a reset. But he needs your permission to help you reset your mind back to kind of center, back to 0 point. So say yes aloud if you'd like us to really support your mind and your mind's energy that has been getting utilized like as a fossil fuel, just getting tapped, pulled, and drained. So let us know. Say yes if we can bring you back to center. And I want you to imagine all of that energy that you've been spending in one side of the tree or the other coming back to you and sitting in the center of your head, radiating and pulsating with new fresh light, thanks to Creator, the Supreme Being, and Archangel Uriel. And in this place, no man has a bind on you, no woman has a bind on you, no politician has a bind on you. They're saying in this place you are love, you are whole. And to remember this place, you can come back center, come back to center, come back to balance. And from here, you make your decisions. From here, you take your sacred actions. From this place, you become an activist. From this place, you spread your message. From this place, you share your truth with others. Because when you're sharing your truth from this place, people can receive it better. People can really receive, even if they oppose your views, they can receive it better. It's not as charged with polarity when you're in center. So if you have hard conversations with your partner, with your spouse, with your parents, with on social media. Good luck with that one though. When you come from the centered place, there's less charge, it's neutral. And I want you to feel that neutrality. And when you approach these issues when you're neutral and still take action, again, less polarity is created. So this is really something that's coming through right now. This is not something I plan to talk about. So this is from Archangel Uriel on Supreme Being and the Creator, really teaching us how to have advanced quantum communication, which is you got to check your energy, be an energy master first. Check your energy before you say a word, before you make a post, so that people can really receive your truth without being polarized against you. So I want you to try that today in your life. If you have hard conversations, this tree map that they're giving us is something that they want you to utilize. It could be like a meditation, but let me know if you can feel the center here. And it could feel like different things. It could just be like slightly more peaceful, more strong, like you're sitting up straighter. And when you think about those areas that you used to have a lot of charge around, so think about the other party of your political party or any political leader that you really have a distaste for. Can you really see them without getting that energetic charge? That's when you know you're sovereign. That's when you know your mind is in a sovereign place. You're not pitting, playing the game of polarity or opposition or the other. You're in alignment with Supreme Being and with real strength. And Jenny's saying your spine got warm. Cool. So we're going to ask Archangel Uriel to give you this attunement even stronger now, because I really want you to get this and I want you to have it. I want you to have it and keep it and remember to do this every day if you really need it. You know, if you're someone who's really going under the water emotionally, I definitely have had those moments. It just means that you have been losing an aspect of your mind here. Sometimes it's literal, going crazy, and come back to center. Archangel Uriel is also helps with wisdom and mental clarity. So I think we all need that right now. I'm so glad he came forward today. So now that you have your center, I want you to start beaming out your future, the future for the planet. Beam out love, right? Doesn't matter what theater we're in right now. What matters is where we're headed. And so you're going to hold the whole thing in space, in love, or whatever feeling that you want to hold it in. I would like to put out that we all understand each other better. So we want deeper understanding between humans, more curiosity, more playfulness. That's what I want. So I want you to really hold space for what you want. Jody saying she can see and feel the tree. What do you want? And I want you to know what I'm feeling for our future is very positive, okay? I know it's weird to say, but again, I feel like this is forcing us to find a different way to relate to each other. And some of us will be gifted with that, will be, and are being gifted with that. This quantum communication. But let's also put out, we need to learn how to have respect for each other, respect for the other side, not just for the people in our own bubble, but for each other, because we need each other. And yes, there are certain people that you will not respect, certain kinds of politicians or certain, I'm not saying just love everybody. I'm saying just keep your eyes open and do what you can. But don't hate the people, all the people, because they're entranced. We're all entranced in one way or another. Okay, let me see if there's anything else that Spirit wanted to share here. Wrote down any other notes. I think that's it. Come back to center, hold your vision. And again, I do feel a good energy, a positive energy. Um, and it may not look like it from the drama playing out, but there will be a collective of humans coming together. And I'm holding space for those humans to be not from all the same walks of life, for all of us to share our ideas in a really awesome, collaborative way. Across oceans, across countries. And Crystal's saying she's so calm and relaxed. So Archangel Uriel, thank you so much. Spirit, great tree. Cool tree, right? Thank you so much. And thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Keep your eye on the prize, and that happens outside of the political theater. And I also want to say, do not get distracted by your own mission, by your own journey and your own message. It's easy to get pulled into other shit, and then you lose yourself and you lose your mission, you lose your creativity, you lose your joy. And so really commit to your joy, your sensuality, your fun, your message, your mission, and do your best to unplug from things that are highly toxic to you. Hi, Adrian. By the way, Adrian, good to see you. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next time. I'm coming back in about 2 weeks. So Angel Juju coming at ya.